Hi, this is Liam Conroy, and I just wanted to go over a quick demo of how to use the application Quizlet. So this is a browser-based application that you can use for helping students with reviewing vocabulary terms. I had never used it before myself, but I've become familiar with it. I had heard of it before through Pear Deck's application known as Flashcard Factory. It said that it could upload vocabulary lists directly to Quizlet for students to review as far as utilizing the game that creates flashcards in Flashcard Factory. But if you already have some terms and definitions in mind for your students, I think this is a good way to set up terms that they can review as far as different types of vocabulary words. I know in particular my school has looked at improving state testing scores in vocabulary by looking at tier 2 and 3 vocabulary strategies, and I think that this application fits very well into it. So for one portion of what you can do, you can utilize lists that other folks have created. So if you try to search for particular terms, let's say that I wanted to search for some zoology related terms for my zoology class, I would be able to look and I can see some comparisons of what other folks have made. Here we've got ones with different amounts of terms, and you can see some of the creators there. There are premium versions of what has been created by other groups, like Kaplan Testing has premium ones that you'd have to pay to actually access that vocab list. But let's take a look here at Shanna Prophet's zoology Quizlet here of 16 terms. So here I can look through the cards. As I look through each one, I can look at the card itself, and I can flip it to take a look at what is included in the definition on that card. There's an image included to help for visual learners who might recall the information a little bit better with a photo attached to it. So they did a really good job in terms of enhancing this presentation by having a few different little pictures of each one along with the definitions that we're looking at. Once you have your list constructed, there's a variety of different ways that you can approach it. Here, if I'm looking in particular, one of the ones that I think would be easiest for students to get into is a matching game. So if I click on this, it ends up saying, make everything disappear. Drag corresponding items onto each other to make them disappear. Click Start Game. And so you can see here, we've got terms that are coming up over top of one another. So if I look at a term here like worms, and I see number of creeping or burrowing invertebrate animals with long, slender, soft bodies and no limbs, I know this is a match. I overlap them, and then they go away like that. Let me try and get through some of these other ones. Herbivore over here, carnivore over here, taxonomy, and omnivore. So now that I've completed that, here we can see, great first start, now can you do even better? So it's showing scores that both I have had and other students have had by comparison for this particular lesson. If you have all of your students integrated in through Google Classroom for this particular app, they should be able to compare within each other within the class. And for students who have a competitive edge, while they're learning the vocabulary, they'll be working on improving their score time and time again, and it gives them just more exposure to the vocabulary. Honestly, it's a way to use that competitive sense to help them better their understanding of the vocabulary. So, like I said, besides going with pre-made lists that other folks have created, you can create your own. So if I go up here to the top and I click Create, it gives me the option to create a new study set. So let's say that I want to make it based, in this case, on some of the basics of ecology. And I'm looking here. Once I enter a term, so let's say that I enter in dichotomous key. So if you see a term that starts to come up ahead of time as you're starting to type it in, usually there are some pre-made definitions from other instructors who have tried to make definitions for their particular Quizlet sets. So if I like one of the definitions, I can use it there. Or if I don't like parts of the definition, I can type in my own. So So I've tried to emphasize a lot with my students that dichotomous keys have to do with physical characteristics and sets of two choices to help reinforce the whole die meaning two. So again, I can add in my own definition if I don't feel like the ones that I find through the Quizlet app fit what I've been trying to cover as easily. Again, everybody's approach is going to be a little bit different. But if you do have to make a list in a hurry, the fact that the definitions can come up really quickly like that can be very helpful to helping you form some of these lists. So let's say that I wanted to include taxonomy on there as well. It's a good definition, I feel like, for that. And so, again, you can so on and so on, make lots of terms and definitions for it. So now let's say that I'm done with creating my list, and I click Create. So now I can send this via email, like if I need to, let's say that I was only sending it to maybe a parent to help them remind their student at home, like, hey, you can review this list at home since we have the test tomorrow. I could send it out to different parents via email. Or if I have an entire email list of all of the different parents, I can copy this link and send it via an email to all of them. I can share this on Google Classroom. If you're like my school, you're very integrated with the Google Suite, and sharing it on Google Classroom is a very helpful way for this to be displayed to the students. I'm not as familiar with Remind, but if that's another one that you utilize, you can share on that as well. And then I have the option to add it to a class or a folder. So if I click it there, I already created a folder for ecology, but you can also create new folders from this particular window. But here I'm adding it to my ecology list, and I've got it basically now stored and organized based on the different classes that I have. So I've got different folders that could be devoted to different classes so I don't get them all mixed up. So again, I just think this is a really great tool for helping kids with learning vocabulary terms. I know that those terms can be difficult sometimes, especially in science. I'm used to my curriculum having lots and lots of terms for students to recognize, and I think this is a great way to approach those terms without having a significant amount of difficulty. And again, an opportunity for students to have a fun, interactive way to explore them. So I hope that you find a way to utilize this for some of your coursework, and thank you for taking your time to watch this presentation.